The Automotive Industry Transformation Fund is set to host a Women in the Auto Sector Roundtable on the 30th of August. The AITF is looking to work with SMEs, particularly black business and women, to help better integrate their businesses into the South African automotive supply chain. I'm joined by Jabulani Selumane. He's the CEO of the Automotive Industry Transformation Fund to tell us more about their work. Thanks very much for joining us, Jabulani. Just give us a sense of the work of the AITF and when it was launched and why.
Good afternoon, Nompumelelo and your viewers. The Automotive Industry Transformation Fund was set up and agreed with the DTIC somewhere in 2019 with the view that the 7 multinational OEMs were not in a position to dilute or sell their equity in this particular market as per the request of the BBBE scorecard. They then requested that we investigate and look at a suitable model that could have equity that they would have sold reflected in the value chain, so that we can change the value chain face. One of the examples is that we, in 2015, had less than 1% of black-owned entities in the entire automotive sector's value chain. So we focused on what is it that we can put in place to ensure that we are able to address and meaningfully add new black entrepreneurs into the value chain. So that's basically what the 7 OEMs that manufacturers in South Africa have put in place. In the main, I think inland we've got BMW, Nissan, as well as Ford. In the coastland, we have Toyota, Isuzu, Mercedes-Benz, and VW, who are operating obviously in the Eastern Cape and KZN respectively, who are the members of this particular structure.
So what are you hoping will come out of the engagement in the Women in the Auto Sector Roundtable next week? What will be some of the focus?
The focus really is to, I think, lift off some of the barriers of entry that we are finding as a common issue that gets a lot of women-owned businesses not properly aligned with the sector. We have had an expression of interest from Wikona for us to facilitate a discussion where we invite key stakeholders in the industry, the likes of NAMSA, NACEM, AIDC, to be able to sit as part of sharing the information with the roundtable full of women that wishes to obviously enter into the sector. So we'll be sharing a lot of the information so that they can understand how the sector is wired, how the sector functions, as a way for us to be able to get them access to market into the sector. The AITF is obviously set up to fund black-owned companies, and in this respect, we have gone as far as updating our policy that 30% of the funds we have are ring-fenced for women-owned businesses into this particular sector, which is accompanied by access to market. So we're trying to bridge the gap, get the message across, and sort of do an educational element towards passing on the message so that they get to understand how they can position themselves when they're looking for opportunities in the sector.
Yeah, no, that's very positive. So on a practical level, just give us a sense of what kind of investments the fund has made to better integrate SMEs. What examples can you give us that stand out?
Yes, so to date we have, we've operated only for the last 18 months, but in a sense we've approved about 15 transactions. Most of them are in the upstream of the sector, which is called, mostly is component manufacturing. Then you've got the downstream, which is retail and distribution. To some extent, we also look at what is called the side stream, because the product is also evolving. We're looking at opportunities that are in the adjacent sector, whether it's energy management and all of those. So we do have a mixed bag of the portfolio, which I think is projected into the different streams of the sector. But in the main, I think it's mostly component manufacturing. So we've got companies that we've funded that are currently supplying some of the components within the engine. As one of the transactions that we funded. We have another one that is looking at battery technology with one of the OEMs. And we did fund another project, which is we call it a Bio 2 Watt, but it's a company that produces energy, renewable energy, and that feeds it into one of the OEMs that obviously are producing the vehicle. So we've had a widespread of opportunities that covers the entire value chain. Most of the other opportunities we've had are equity transactions where you would find that there's a company that wants to exit and they want to sell equity towards black-owned companies, and we facilitated those type of transactions as well.
So lastly, Jabulani, as we look to the future, and I think you touched on it a little bit, you talked about battery technology. As we look to the future and we look at the industry perhaps building electric vehicles, where might the fund assist in bringing small businesses on board in the supply chain?
Yeah, thanks, Nompulelo. I think what we are trying to do is to, because the product is already shifting, we are looking at creating, as part of the exercise and the work we're doing with Wikona, building a pipeline so that at the time when the product is officially launched, we sort of have done a good pipeline of entrepreneurs that understands what are some of the nuances and barriers and the standards and licensing that is required towards being able to provide products and services around future technologies. And I think this conversation is held a little bit earlier so that we are able to eliminate the excuse to say we can't find these type of companies in the market when we look for them. So we are starting as early as now so that we can get them aligned. But I think more important, it's important that we also, I think, reflect on our basic education structures in ensuring that the pipeline development actually starts there, where we try and influence curricular activities in order that the learners are much more familiar and in touch, learning real time in alignment with how the economy is moving along and product. That way they're not left behind as well.
Thanks very much, Jabulani, for your time and your insights there. That was Jabulani Selumane. He's the CEO of the Automotive Industry Transformation Fund.